Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today, and happy World Card Making Day. As part of my effort to spread the card making love, I'm going to do another bunch of cards, one pad video. So get comfy and let's get crafty. So this is part of my Christmas 2022 card making series, and I picked up this 6x6 pad from Hobby Lobby. As soon as their Christmas stuff went out, I went looking because, why not, right? This is a beautiful pad, lots of foiled images, lots of Christmas images, but there's only one page that has what could be used as like a sentiment strip. There's not any tags or anything like that. So we are going to just use pattern paper to make 4 cards, one pad. So the first thing I'm going to do is trim down this strip of paper here. The little white strip says Merry Christmas a couple of times, and I'm going to trim this one down first. I'm cheating a little bit and pulling in a second pad of paper. It's a small 6x6 pad of gold foil paper that I picked up at Joann's a long time ago. So anyway, for the first card, I want to take this blue snowflake, snowflake pattern, and I'm going to trim 3 1-inch pieces or strips of paper, and then I'm going to trim them down to about, I think I went with 3.5 inches. I'm not sure. I'm totally eyeballing this, by the way. I don't have measurements written down anywhere. I'm just eyeballing. Once I have these strips of paper trimmed down, I am going to add some adhesive to the back and adhere them to this gold foil paper, and then I am going to trim that out as well. I'm going with a very small margin, super small margin on this. It looks like there's a big gap between them, but that's just so that I have enough room to trim them down. So I think I have a 1 1/8 inch strips of paper. Like there are barely any dimension on them whatsoever. I'm just using my Fiskars trimmer to trim these out because I can use that wire to line it up exactly where I want it to be. And then I have 3 strips of paper that have been matted with this gold foil, which is super pretty. These 6x6 foil pads of the gold foil paper I picked up at Joann's, in August or September. They were $3. I know, right? So before I add adhesive to the back of the sentiment strip, I do want to trim it down so it only has Merry Christmas one time. Didn't think about that to begin with, and I'm going to also mat that on that gold foil paper as well. This is like double speed, most of it. I did trim out some of the weird fiddly parts where I was off screen, but I spent about an hour in my craft room today. Not as early in the day as I was hoping to get to it, but I did spend some time in my craft room for World Card Making Day. And then I figured better late than never, I am going to go ahead and edit that footage and get it up for you to see. So most of you probably won't enjoy it until Sunday, but hey, better late than never, right? Okay, so this is kind of a take on a triptych, an art piece that's cut into 3 pieces. But I'm not lining them up in a straight row. I'm going to kind of go with this diagonal angle from right to left or left to right. Yeah, because we read left, right. From the left bottom to the top right corners. And then I'm going to place a sentiment right on the front. I did decide to pull out some foam tape for my sentiment just to pop it up a little bit and give it a little bit of oomph. It did still feel like it was missing a little bit of something. I mean, Christmas cards need to be just a little bit extra, right? So once I got my sentiment down on there, I started thinking about what else I wanted to add to this. So all 4 cards, I'm using this kind of royal-ish blue. It looks almost purple on the video, but it is blue cardstock as card bases. And I am just going to go ahead and adhere this down. I did decide to pull out the foam tape again and lay that all down adhere that down. Okay, and I put it on upside down. So I could have edited this out, but I thought it was a good opportunity to explain to you how I don't speak English and words are hard. Just kidding. It was a good opportunity to show you how I fix my mistakes. The front of this card base is already torn up a little bit, so I have two choices. Cut it off and use another card base, or just put the card panel down on the top of it and nobody but you and me will know. So, to fix up that little it was missing something idea, I pulled out these gold foil stars. Now, true story, I almost pulled out my gold stickles, but they take a really long time to dry, and I figured if I was going to do these 4 cards and get the photos taken and the video footage edited, I probably shouldn't use something like stickles that takes so long to dry. So, now that we have the stars adhered to the front with my Tombow Mono multi-glue, I am going to go ahead and put a piece of white copy paper on the inside of the card, and just like that, card number 1 is done. So moving on to card number 2, I am pulling out some more pattern papers. I've selected this white paper with the doves. I'm using the snowflakes again. I went with a light blue that has kind of some feathers on it, kind of with the dove version, or the dove pattern paper. And then I went with one of these white gold foiled patterns. Now, I have this piece of white scrap card paper. White scrap cardstock. There we go. And obviously it is a scrap because it has a big blob of a warm gray alcohol ink dropped right on it. Not a big deal because we're not going to see that anyway. So I am taking these 4 pieces of paper and I am cutting myself 1/2 inch strips. And then I realized with 1/2 inch strips, those doves will not show up. So I pulled another one of the white and gold foil papers out and decided to use that instead. And what I am doing here is taking the pattern papers, and I'm going to tape my scrap piece down to my work surface because it's sliding all over my glass work mat, and that is the only downside to this glass work mat so far. Anyways, I am going to take these little strips of paper and adhere them down to this scrap of paper that I have put double-sided adhesive all over. I'm just butting them up next to each other, not worrying about the left side because I'll trim those, the edges off. I don't care if they're the same. I'm going to trim them down anyway. I am going to trim off those long pieces and just use those same papers to repeat the pattern and finish filling up this scrap piece of paper. My goodness, my brain is going faster than my tongue can keep up. I cannot speak clearly tonight. I apologize if I'm bugging your happiness. Turn the volume down and just watch. Okay, I'm going to put adhesive on the rest of the back of this piece of paper, but instead of adhering it straight onto my card mat, which I'm also taping down because I'm going to be fiddling around, I am going to go diagonal. Because why not? Because why not? I'm going to go ahead and trim off those edges. And then again, because it's a Christmas card and it needs all the extras, I am going to take this gold foil paper. I'm going to cut 2 strips that are like 1/8 of an inch wide. I'm talking barely past the blade width on my trimmer. And I am going to adhere them down to each side of that band of pattern paper. Super simple, right? That takes nothing at all, and it jazzes up the front of this card panel beautifully. Using a little bit of Tombow glue. The reason I am using Tombow Mono glue is because it does dry back clear. Now, I did get a little bit of glue on the top of that foil paper because, glue on my fingers. I just took a slightly wet baby wipe, wiped it down, easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'm going to go ahead and trim off those edges. And now I'm going to add that other Merry Christmas sentiment strip. I decided to trim that blue edge off that I had left on for the other card. And I am going to also back that with some of the gold foil paper. And I'm just using my ATG gun here, double-sided adhesive. It is a strong adhesive. However, it does give me a little bit of time to fuss around with things, especially when I don't get them lined up exactly straight. So I flipped my card panel upside down so I could measure that from the bottom, and now I am creating my card base. Same blue card paper. It is 11 inches tall by 4 1/4 inches wide. It is scored in the middle at 5 1/2 to create, you guessed it, a top folding portrait style A2 size card. Because they're my favorite. I don't know why, but they are. And that's card 2 almost complete. All that is left is the panel on the inside And then a little bling to jazz it up because, again, we got to add the bling. I'm pulling out those gold stars again. And I will do the same kind of configuration I did on the other card. One group of 3 and one group of 2 because that creates a visual triangle and an odd number, which makes my brain happy, theoretically. There is still that part of my brain that's saying, even numbers. But I digress. Okay, card number 3. We are going to start with our card base this time because, as I previously mentioned, I am not measuring anything. I don't have measurements. I just have a stack of pattern paper and an idea of a plan. Not even a whole plan, just an idea of a plan. So I decided I like this Dove gold foil paper. It is so pretty. So I want this to be the main mat on this card. And I trimmed it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I decided I wanted to trim just a sliver off. So it's actually like 3 7/8 inches wide, just barely a little off, because I want to back it with some more of this gold foil paper. So the gold foil paper, or the gold shiny paper, whatever you want to call it, is going to be 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And then because I don't want to waste that whole panel because it's pretty and I'm, a hoarder of pretty things, I am going to cut out the middle. It will not affect the look of my card. You will not even see it. And we are the only ones who know that the middle of that gold foil cardstock is missing because I'm going to put that gold Dove paper right over the top. I don't do this with all of my paper when I'm matting it, but for some reason when it's shiny, pretty, sparkly paper, I feel like I have to keep the middle because what if I need it? What if I need a piece just that size? Okay, so now I'm deciding what I want my next layers to be. I decided to use this light blue feather print. And I, again, no measurements at all. I started at about 2.5 inches wide. This paper is a 6-inch pad, so I'm cutting it down to about 4 1/4 inches tall. So it's about 1/2 inch smaller than my card mat. And then I pulled out that blue snowflake pattern and kind of measured that and fiddled around with it for a minute and decided these needed some gold foil too, but I'm going to take this Merry Christmas pattern paper. I am going to cut off 2 blue stripes and 1 sentiment stripe, and then I am going to trim off the ends so I only have 1 Merry Christmas phrase. And I will back all 3 of these panels with gold cardstock and trim them down so they have just the smallest of borders, just like the main card mat. I did a lot of that trimming off camera because, well, I forgot how zoomed in I was and you couldn't really see my trimmer, so why leave it there? You get the gist, right? I think all 4 cards, I think I used part of 2 pages of the gold foil. So I didn't really use a ton. 2 6x6 pieces of gold foil paper, but because it was $2.99 at Joann's, I felt it was okay. It's not like it was, the most expensive thing I ever bought. And I keep telling myself I have to use the pretty paper. I have to use the pretty paper because my kids do not want to inherit an office or craft room full of pretty paper. Sigh, they're crazy. They don't know what they're missing. Anyway, again, we are just working from the idea of having some layers here. Because this pattern paper pack did not have any specific focal images, we're just going with layered pieces of pattern paper. I did decide to add some foam tape to the back of that sentiment panel because with the one rectangle on top of the other, it's kind of an uneven surface. So a tape runner the paper wouldn't lay really very flat. In order to make sure I get this on straight, I did pull out my T-square ruler. So this is the 6-inch T-square ruler from Simon Says Stamp, and it has that ledge that holds on to the edge of your card, which I kind of love. I did not add any extra bling to this card because there's lots of shiny on there already, but I did put my copy paper on the inside to create a writing surface. Okay, that's card 3 number done. number done. That is card number 3 done, and we are moving on to card number 4. I have my card base and a card mat, and I'm pulling out some more. Oh my goodness, some more of those pattern papers. I'm going to add this blue plaid, and I just can't decide. I decided to go with the blue dove instead of the gold foil dove, and I'm using these 2 white gold foil prints, and I am cutting down, I think I went with 1 inch, 1 inch strips of paper again. This is just another way to use pattern paper. This one I trimmed crooked first, so I've got to fix it. But anyway, it is what it is. I have my card mat here that is 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And I'm just drawing a line where I want to divide this card panel. I am going to adhere these pieces of pattern paper across the front of the card, but not all the way to the top, just to that line I've drawn on, which I think it was 2 inches down from the top, or maybe 2 1/4 inches down from the top. I didn't want it to be exactly half, so it's kind of sort of eyeballed thirds, but probably not really technically math thirds. I didn't measure. I know you're surprised by that. I didn't measure. Okay, now that I have the strips all laid down, I am going to pull my trimmer out and cut off the bottoms of those that are hanging out. And the right-hand side was a little bit wide. My white mat is probably just not trimmed exactly 4 inches, or one of those strips isn't exactly 1 inch, whatever. Again, it's handmade, not Hallmark, right? We did not make this on a computer. It's not computer generated. It is beautifully handmade. I need some more little gold foil strips, kind of like we did on the first card. So I'm going to take this scrap piece this is just one of the scraps that I had from trimming down the other pieces. And I'm going to trim me down some 3 little gold foil strips. And I am going to use the Tombow glue and adhere them right down the front because it looks pretty. And it just kind of makes the gold foil on that pattern paper pop. Oh, that was kind of a fancy alliteration. Using a damp baby wipe to remove the glue off the foil paper. And now I have to finish this off. I have this it's about a 1 inch wide piece of gold foil paper, cardstock stuff. I am going to adhere it down to my card front with foam tape because, why not? It needs a little bit of dimension because, it does. It just does. I pulled out my Simon Says Stamp T-square ruler again because if this is crooked, it's going to be kind of noticeable and it would be weird. Even for those of us who don't regularly measure things, it would look a little weird. Okay, so I am going to adhere this to my card base before I move on because I need to be able to measure the next part of this card. And by measure, I mean eyeball. So one of the papers has this all is calm, all is bright sentiment, and some in foil, some in white. And I am going to use my waffle flower circle dies. There we go. And I am going to take just one of those dies and tape it down with some low-tack tape. And then I'm going to go 2 dies up and cut out a gold circle as well. I will tape them down, send them through my die cut machine, and voila, through the magic of television or YouTube. You didn't have to watch that. It's actually the magic of video editing, I suppose. Anyway, I am going to adhere those together and place it right there on the center of that band. I did put glue just in the middle of the circles. Off camera, I did slip some pieces of foam tape underneath that circle because it was kind of wobbly. And now I am putting the panel in the inside of my card, so there's a nice clean place to write. And I will go ahead and add my 2 groups of stars, 3 on one side, 2 on the other, because at this point, I've done it to 3 of the 4 cards. I better just keep going because, it's just the way it is. Okay, so we have created from 1 stack of paper and some gold foil paper 4 Christmas cards for the 2022 Christmas card series. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a chance to go and make something pretty for World Card Making Day. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I have a couple of other videos here for you to watch, as well as a subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Do me a favor, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and have a really awesome World Card Making Day.